Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Top 5 Sports Show. We got Matt, we got Brock. Brock, how we doing today?
Well, great as always.
Tough
week one for us, but it's football. That is football.
That's right.
We're here to bounce back.
Yeah, tough week one. So last week we had our week one locks. Brock and I both went 2 and 3, but it was a weird week one between our Packers. Just a couple plays here, a couple plays there, and it's a whole different ball game. The Broncos losing to the Seahawks, which
the Bears
beating
beating 49ers
in a
at home.
monsoon.
Yep.
We talked about it. We were texting during the game. As soon as the Packers lost, our buddy Dylan's a Broncos fan, and I super petty. Petty. There we go. As soon as the Packers lost, there's no way. I wanted everything to roll the Seahawks way, and it was just.
It kind of started that way.
Between all of the penalties they were committing, all of the stupid fumbles they had, it was a glorious end to the weekend after a not so great start. But Dak Prescott being out for who knows 4 to 8 weeks somewhere there. TJ Watt partially tearing his pec. Injuries here and there. So, but as always, we're looking forward. We got
Bears week.
That's right. We looking forward to week 2. Thursday night football is on as we speak. Kansas City Chiefs and the Chargers. So should be a pretty fun game. But this week, what we got for you guys is our week 2 starts and sits for fantasy football. Some of these are going to be pretty obvious. Like obviously you're starting him, but you got to think about DFS and whether or not it's going to be worth it to pay up for some of these guys. And then our sits are obvious. They're guys who are fading. In some leagues you're going to be forced to start some of these guys based off of your roster construction or in a super deep league. But it's guys who we're fading. If we have the opportunity to start someone who we're not fading, or start a guy who we may have on a bench in a more shallow league, it's the way that we are going. So
absolutely.
Brock, let's kick it off. You want to start us off with your number 5 starts and sit for the week?
Absolutely. My number 5, coming off a very solid week 1, I'm going Saquon Barkley, playing Carolina. Carolina's been pretty bad versus the run as of late, last couple seasons, and they gave up a lot of yards to the Browns in week 1 between their 2 running backs. But I think Saquon is back, ready to prove himself. Giants had a very impressive week 1 win. But I think Saquon continues the trend. He's catching some balls out of the backfield.
33% target share.
Yeah, and
I'm a running back.
I love it because Carolina, they are a very young defense, but I think if the Giants can continue playing how they did from week 1, I think it's another huge week for Saquon.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 5 from the start position is going to be another guy who, obviously you're going to start him depending on your league. But my number 5 start is Cortland Sutton. We just mentioned basically everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Broncos. Tariq Woolen, the rookie cornerback for Seattle, looked really good. He's a big, fast corner, matched up well body size wise. But I think the Broncos coach Nathaniel Hackett learned his lesson. He was a little bit too, and that's an understatement, too timid. I think he's truly gonna let Russ cook. I don't think you're gonna see the first drive or first 2 drives without them targeting a wide receiver. I think Cortland Sutton goes off this week. I think he has a big game. Jerry Jeudy, I think, also has a decent game. But if I'm starting one of the Broncos wide receivers, it's definitely gonna be Cortland Sutton.
Hey, you look at that offensive game for the Broncos in week 1 is very, very weird. Also had a couple turnovers deep in the red zone that didn't help them out at all. But I think they get back on track. We saw sparks of it in that game. But I think Russ lets it fly this game this week.
And you see Michael Pittman had a huge game against the Texans this week, another big-bodied receiver. So it's looking like it's going to be a good week for Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. My number 4, I am going to the Cleveland Browns for this one. I'm going Donovan Peoples-Jones. They're playing the Jets. Seen a lot of, decent things out of the Jets in week 1, even though they lost. Sauce Gardner kind of looks like he could be the real deal. And if that's the case, I think Sauce is on Amari most of the game, maybe half the game. That could free up Donovan Peoples-Jones. If you watch some of the Ravens game, the touchdowns were scored not on Sauce. So you're looking at the other side of the field, the middle of the field, and I just think Jacoby Brissett will be, smart with the ball and won't force anything. And I think Donovan Peoples-Jones could be the beneficiary of that in catching a red zone touchdown, a long bomb, something along the lines. Like we always say, the Jets are still going to jet. And I mean, Flacco's still starting, so they could be trying to air out the ball a little bit early on, take an early lead. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is a great pick to have in your potential flex.
Yeah. My number 4 is a guy who is coming off a disappointing week 1. He's in my starting lineup week 1. I have a decision to make whether I'm going to have him as one of my starting flex spots in week 2. My number 4 is Ramandre Stevenson. Didn't do much last week. Ty Montgomery kind of vultured the touchdown from there.
He's on IR now.
He's on IR this week. Prior to the season, you heard about potentially the Patriots wanting to use him similarly to how the Saints use Alvin Kamara, which even if he can be 3/4 of that, that's a hell of a player. I think he's a really talented guy. So he is my number 4 for this week. Basically, just going to depend on if we can have Matt Patricia and Joe Judge not screw things up any worse than they did in week 1.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. 100% agree with that. My number 3, going to the Vikings. It's not Jettis. It's Thielen. Adam Thielen. Off week 1, but you didn't really have to do much when Jefferson was wide open 80% of the time. I think someone will be guarding Justin Jefferson this week, so that just automatically gives Thielen the green light. So I could see Thielen having one of his more. I could see him getting a 2-touchdown game out of this week. Getting back to the Thielen of old, 4 or 5 catches, 2 touchdowns, 70 yards. Very easy, low price in daily fantasy. And again, if you got him in your flex, I think that's a good couple players to have in your flex. And if you have multiple flex spots, obviously I think Saquon or Donovan Peoples-Jones and Thielen could fit right there with that. If you have both of them, or look, waiver wire trades, if you're doing year long, but I think daily fantasy, I think he's one guy to really watch out for.
Yeah. Thielen was a guy who I was targeting preseason, a little bit of a trade for, but he is on the team of an unreasonable Vikings fan in our league, so there was no way he was getting pried away from him. So my number 3 is going to be the most obvious of obvious this week. My number 3 is Devonte Adams. He could easily be number 1, but he's not. And the reason why he's on my start list, obviously everyone's starting him after that monster week last week.
And every week he's a must start every week.
Every week, yeah. I think this week he is the highest scoring player in fantasy football, regardless of format. You saw the way that the 44% target share. I think everyone's seen the videos on the Twitter of him just absolutely roasting the dude off the line, turning him sideways.
And still running past him.
Yeah. And I think Devonte is, like I said, the highest scoring player in fantasy football this week. It doesn't get much easier, but I'm going out on a limb and saying number 1 overall player.
As I say, throwing that number out there as number 1 overall player, that's big. Like, obviously, you're going to start Devonte Adams in every league that you have him in. But to say he's going to be your top scorer of everybody this week, that's a big one. Going to number 2. We're going to the tight end position. We don't give a lot of love to the tight ends. I'm going Pat Freiermuth. I think he's going to be one of the most consistent tight ends this year. He might not put up the big flashy numbers as like a Kelsey or Mark Andrews, but I think he's going to be like one of those most consistent, especially in daily fantasy. Lower price point. I think he's at like 5,300, 5,400 on FanDuel, something along those lines. If he's going to get you 10 to 15 points, I think that's a easy dub right there, especially in daily fantasy. But you get 10 to 15 points out of any tight end outside of the 2 that I named. That's a win. I think we take that any day of the
got
week.
Me 6 last week, so I'll definitely take the 10 to 15.
Yeah, Kyle. That's a pretty good game for Kyle Pitts. 6 points.
My number 2 is going to be a wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. Not the one you're thinking of. Maybe not even the second one you're thinking of. My number 2 is Tyler Boyd. I haven't seen this week whether or not T. Higgins has cleared concussion protocol. If he doesn't, I think Tyler Boyd is a shoo-in for a great week. Even if he does, I think T. Higgins could be one of those surprising, top 24 receivers have that kind of week. They're going up against, the Dallas Cowboys. I think you see Diggs on Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase handles business like he does against any cornerback, basically. But then I think Tyler Boyd sees a lot of targets. I think he has a sneaky good game. Think he gets into the end zone. Could definitely see him getting 8 or 9 catches for 70, 80, 100 yards and a score this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Bengals, again, coming off a weird game.
Yeah.
A lot of missed opportunities for them, kicks.
No time to throw from Joe Burrow.
Yeah, Joey B, one of his worst games of his career, collegiate and NFL. Before we get to my number 1, I am going to go a couple honorable mentions. I got Joey B, because I think even though he did put up fantasy-wise a good game, 22 points, you take away those 5 turnovers. Yep. That's what, 2 points apiece. He's looking at a 32, 33-point game, if not more, because those could turn into touchdowns, actual yards. That you could be pushing 40, and they lost. So I could see him want to come back, come out firing, and really light it up. My second one, going Aaron Jones, 8 targets or 8 total touches in week 1, averaged 9.7 yards a touch, and we only got him the ball 8 times. That's a big red flag. I don't think Matt LaFleur will let that happen again. I don't think Aaron Rodgers will let that happen again. So I think he could, compared to last week, I think he has a very solid 15 to 20 point game, finds the end zone, lights up the Bears. That's that. He's going to run. We're going to get him the ball. He's going to find space and find the end zone. But that being said, my number 1, going back to the quarterback, I think is my only quarterback on the list, which is pretty surprising, especially who it is, to me at least. I'm going Derek Carr. You talked about Devonte. He's going to be open every time. Easy. But if he's not, they want to double him because they probably should. You got Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow were solid. Derek Carr didn't have the greatest game last week either. I believe he had 3 interceptions as well. I think he bounces back. Cardinals defense is one of the worst the last week against the pass. And with a guy like Devonte, it's hard not to pick Devonte as well. Smart if you pick Devonte. If you can pile those 2 together, Derek Carr and Devonte Adams, so I'm thinking that's probably 50 piece, 60 piece between the 2. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's about it. That's about it. Because Cardinals, and I don't trust Kyler Murray.
Yep.
He'll
My number one, no honorable mentions for me this week. But my number one is a guy who you listed already. His name has been mentioned. My number one is Aaron Jones. I think he had 8 or 9 total touches last week, which is a travesty. I think the Packers find a way for him to get involved, whether it's catching the ball out of the backfield, catching the ball out wide or in the slot, running the ball. A couple of the plays he had last week, he did look good. He made some missed tackles. He went on a little bit of a run. But the Packers offense overall in their 4th preseason game was just not clicking. I think Aaron Jones is the catalyst this week. I could definitely see him being the RB1, not an RB1, but the RB1 this week. I'm not predicting that, but it's within his range of outcomes, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Aaron Jones in a big Packers win.
We know well enough that Aaron Jones has one of those games where it's like 3 touchdown game, and you're like, there it is.
Yep.
And it usually comes off of a weird loss or a low touch game.
Yep.
So I can very well see Aaron Jones absolutely going berserk this week. I could see 2 rushing, 1 receiving, 2 receiving, 1 rushing, something along those lines, and that I would love it. Obviously, love it.
All right, on to our sits of the week. I'll give you a forewarning. Me and Brock went through our list prior to the show,
and we didn't have anybody the same. I don't believe
we have 2 the same. I didn't go through my sits, but you went through yours. So we have 2 of our
Cheater.
sits that are similar, not in the same order by any means. But my number 5 could easily be number 1. It's one of those fluky players from last week. My number 5 is Taysom Hill.
Yep.
He touched the ball like 6 or 7 or 8 total times, something like that. He had a couple of long runs. He had a touchdown. I just don't see that happening. I think the Buccaneers defense is a whole lot better than what they faced last week. They're a lot faster. They fly around to the ball. So Taysom Hill, I think, goes back to where he belongs with nobody talking about him.
That's about right.
Former Packers quarterback Taysom Hill, that is.
Right. Former Packer great.
Yeah, that's right.
My number 5, another one of those weird players, kind of on the rise and fall, different position, Daryl Patterson. Yeah. Playing the Rams defense, I mean, that says enough. Atlanta, I don't think their offense is that good compared to the Rams defense. I think Aaron Donald absolutely lights them up in the middle. Then Bobby Wagner had looked like he had like a resurgence of his career in week 1, had a really solid game. So I could see Cordero going back to his regular form of 3 points.
Yeah.
Fantasy.
Second half of the season last year.
Yes.
Cordero. My number 4, Daryl Patterson. I could see he's gonna have 9 carries for 17 yards and 3 catches for 12 yards. I think the Rams are pissed off after last week. I think they come out blazing, like you said. Aaron Donald, I think is a game changer this week, as he typically always is. Not much last week, but Cordell Patterson, I think it's you can't say flash in the pan because he did have a great first half of the season last year, but I think goes back to mediocrity.
Oh, absolutely. Down to my number 4, another guy with a big week 1, going Devin Duvernay. Again, playing another solid defense in Miami. Could see Xavier Howard from time to time. I just don't like the matchups. It's a pretty fast Dolphins defense versus a very fast Baltimore offense. They set the edge, make Lamar uncomfortable. Lamar throws his patented ducks. noodle arm, as some may say. Um, but I think they give Lamar a lot of problems up front or around the outside, and they just kind of make things difficult. Coverage will be a lot tighter than against the Jets. And that's another thing. He was going up against the Jets number 2 most of the time. So I think Devin Duvernay is one of those guys that you sit. I don't think it's a season-long sit. I think he's going to have a very solid season, but I think this is a game that just doesn't bode well for him.
My number 3, a guy that's going to be starting for you this weekend, I believe, Brock. He's a Chicago Bear. My number 3 is David Montgomery.
He's not starting.
Oh, he's a guy good. He's a guy last week who didn't even at times look like the best running back on his own team.
Mm-hmm.
The Packers, as bad as they looked on defense, were pretty good against the run. Gave up a little bit towards the end with a little bit of 10-yard runs here, 12-yard runs there. But for the most part, the Packers' front 7 was not the problem. It was the secondary.
Which is surprising.
I think David Montgomery gets shut down. I think the Packers win this game big. So I think the Bears are trying to play catch up from behind. So David Montgomery is my number 3 for my sits.
I'm sticking with the running back side. Going Michael Carter. I liked what I saw week 1. We'll say that. Browns defense is very good against the run, very fast linebackers. Very good tackling linebackers, very good tackling secondary as well. Again, the Jets. Breece Hall did look good as well. I could see him potentially taking a few more touches this week, maybe more on the trick play side of those. But I think they're going to try to spread it out just a little bit more. I mean, I can't really spread it out more than they did last week when Joe Flacco threw 59 times. So I think if they continue that trend, it could be another not very good game for Michael Carter, but I do like his upside probably towards later in the season once Zach Wilson comes back.
Yeah. Again, like you said, I started Ramandre last week. Some of the guys on my bench included Miles Sanders and Michael Carter, so it was definitely wouldn't have made a difference for me, unfortunately, but one of those where I seen him on my bench getting double-digit fantasy points and was pleasantly surprised. So hopefully, like you said, later in the season comes better. My number 2 is going to be not just one player, but a position group. Last week was a real surprise as to how it unfolded. I think you could see a little bit more of the same this week, so I'm just canceling the both of them. The Texans running backs. I don't think anybody expected Rex Burkhead to outsnap and outtouch Dameon Pierce the way they did. I think, like you said, Dameon Pierce was high on our Rookie of the Year watch list, but I don't think either of them have a good game this week. So I'm just altogether fading the Texans running backs. They were in a surprisingly close game last week. I don't think that's the case this week. So just fading them, not touching them, sitting the both of them.
I think the only people that expected that out of Rex Burkhead was the Texans camp, because after he had that game, they heard a report that Rex did not play in the preseason game because they expected him to be a high target guy in the season. So, yeah, I could see that. Just because it's still the Texans, they're still very inconsistent play, like you said.
And the stout Bronco, the Broncos issue wasn't the running.
No,
it wasn't the defense as a whole, to be honest.
It was penalties.
Yep.
Bonehead plays. Yep.
And
that's about it. My number 2, I already heard this name. Going Taysom Hill. You hit a lot of the reasons. He's big play dependent, touchdown dependent. They're ranking him, I believe, the 3rd ranked tight end in FanDuel this week. And no, That's about it. I mean, why would you put him way up there when literally he touched the ball 3 or 4 times?
Yeah.
So I'm staying away from him, especially this week. Just because I think towards the end of the game, when Michael Thomas started coming back and showing the connection with Jameis, it could be a dangerous duo right there. So I think that kind of also takes Taysom Hill out of it as well.
Yeah. My number one, another guy, Brock. I feel like half these guys started for you or were on your bench last week, or in your lineup as a whole. Either way, my number one sit is gonna be Kareem Hunt. He's a guy I don't like him as a player. I think Nick Chubb is far and away the best running back there. I just wish they'd trade Kareem Hunt and let Nick Chubb eat. Unfortunately, I traded Nick Chubb to you prior to the season, so regretting it a little bit right now. But we'll see how it turns out. But I don't think he gets into the end zone twice.
No.
I don't think he has as big of a role this week. So Kareem Hunt is my number one sit of the week.
I mean, based off his week last week, I 100% can 100% agree with it. I do still think he's a big part of that offense because of the fact that he is their pass catcher. If in a full PPR, even half PPR, I would take him. In probably my flex, he wouldn't be my number 1 or 2 in daily fantasy, but in a flex, I wouldn't be mad to have him on my team because it always seems like he is a touchdown vulture as well. He's in the goal line. He's in instead of Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb does all the heavy lifting, 18 carries, 140 yards or whatever he had last week, and he doesn't get the touchdowns like Kareem Hunt does. But that being said, my number one may surprise some people. I believe it surprised you, and I told you. I'm going quarterback, Kyler Murray. What I saw from him week 1 did not look like he studied anything in the off season. That's kind of been his knock, that he doesn't want to watch film.
Wait until Call of Duty comes out.
Yeah, yep. He's off or something. This, that, the other. He's just not focused on football. A simple blitz package that he could have had picked up, and he did not do it. He did not even see it coming and got smacked right in the face. So there's little things that just don't seem right. I think he's trying to base his play strictly off his athletic ability because he is one of the fastest, most electric players, but he is tiny. He needs to read defenses, and he just can't. This is the NFL now. They have tape on you. They will send packages. They will contain you. They will spy you. They'll do all this, and if you can't read that, you're going to be in a world of trouble. And we saw that week 1 with Kansas City.
Yep.
Kansas City lit them up, and Kansas City, good defense. I won't say they're a great defense, a very good defense. But you start
pass rush at least.
Yes, and I mean you're going up against another one in Oakland with Las Vegas, and Max Crosby. I'm old. What can I say? I'm old man. Max Crosby and Chandler Jones over there now. Chandler Jones revenge game. Could see him literally eating Kyler Murray because he's so small. But I just do not like him. I might not even like him until D-Hop comes back.
Yeah.
Because if you look at, I don't like what Christian Kirk's gone. Rondale Moore was out.
You got Andy Isabella.
Yeah, the great Andy Isabella. Don't trust any wide receivers over there. So, Kyler Murray, my number 1 sit of the week. Could be bold, but I'm going to take it.
Let's see. There it is, folks. Top 5 starts and sits of week 2. Again, you can't just look at it in a vacuum. Obviously, most people hopefully aren't playing Taysom Hill, and
Yeah.
most people are playing Devonte Adams. But
We're basing a lot off the hype, you know.
that's right.
It's all those guys that, ooh, you had him on your bench, you can have trade bait, like a guy like even Josh Palmer or
Sterling Shepard.
yeah. I mean, there's a handful of the guys out there that just they get enamored by week one. Oh, it's going to be a big year for them. A guy like Devin Duvernay.
Yeah.
I mean, you have him, you could trade him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I personally want to see consistency, and that's why I did what I did week 2.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a great week. It's already off to a good start with this LA Charger Kansas City game. And folks, just a little bit of a PSA out there. Don't be a poke. Set your lineups. Keenan Allen was ruled out. Take him out of your lineups. You got players on IR starting. Take them out of your lineup. It's not that hard. It takes 5 seconds. So with that being said,
it's only week 2. It's not week 14 when you're like 0-10 and you're like, oh, what do I got to do?
Right.
It's week 2 and you already don't have a correct lineup. What are we doing? What are we doing, rookies?
Youths. But with that being said, you guys can follow us on the old Twitter machine. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify via Anchor. So check it out. Follow us on on all of the social medias. As always, if you guys have any top fives that you would like to hear, let us hear it. We love interacting with you guys. Just let us know what you are thinking. Excuse me. Anything else for the folks, Brock?
Hopefully, if you guys watched the previous videos that we posted, were able to watch them and not see our faces morph.
Melting.
We had
some
technical difficulties on our end. So
right.
hopefully this one, the video's back. We get our Anchor all set up. Spotify is good. So you guys, instead of watching that atrocity, you can just listen to it on Spotify. So you don't even have to look at us. I know, I know it's hard not wanting to look at us. Yeah. I mean, with baldness and
otherwise, give it a shot. Facebook.com/top5sports. On Twitter at top5 sports show. And then YouTube, again, you can just search top5 sports. Otherwise, until next time, go Pack Go.